Hello, my name's Rajan, and this is my combat rogue guide for 5.3 and 5.4. I'm going to start off with stat priority. Stat priority is very easy for combat. We go haste, then mastery, then crit. You also want at least 7.5% expertise and 7.5% hit. Next I'm going to be talking about talents. Talents can have a very influential effect on a combat rogue's DPS. Night Stalker, I chose it purely because of the fact that the 20% movement speed increase while in hide can be very handy. Catching up to mobs and cloak and daggering right on top of them with an ambush can be very handy in raids, rather than waiting until a mob's quarter dead before you actually get to pounce on it. It's the same with the 25% damage increase off your first hit coming out of hide. It's very handy on how hard your ambush hits, and it can be quite effective. Combat readiness. It takes a while to build up, but I find it the only real viable talent for your level 30 talent. I don't find myself kidneying or cheap shotting much, so I generally find it's the best of all the talents, just because of the fact that combat readiness is reduced damage and it can be very handy. Level 45 talents. I generally find Leeching Poison is the one that I mainly will use. Elusiveness is very good for high damage fights, and when you're specifically being targeted by something that isn't area damage, it can be very handy on your feint. Have 30% less damage overall rather than just area damage. Very good. But Leeching Poison is generally good, just it's one less thing to worry about, I find, generally, and our healers are pretty decent. So level 60 talents. Burst of Speed, Shadow Step, Cloak and Dagger. This is discussed a lot. I generally find Cloak and Dagger is the best of the lot, just purely because of the fact that you can be standing anywhere, and without really having to concentrate on focusing where you are, especially if there's a lot of mobs there, you can just get out a quick ambush and get straight into your rotation straight away, rather than stuffing around trying to get behind the mobs specifically, using Burst of Speed. Level 75 talents. I find this really doesn't matter. This is the one talent that really is quite insignificant. Level 90 talents. I generally find that Anticipation is the only viable option for a level 90 talent, purely because of the fact that because combat is such a high haste spec, during your burst you can barely keep up with your combo points unless you're really concentrating. To have those extra 5 combo points that you'll be able to fill up on your bar, it makes things a lot easier to get out, as many eviscerates as possible during burst. Mark for Death is good to have a 5 combo point Slice and Dice coming into the fight, and Shriek and Toss is good for a bit of range. But if you really like, with a combination of Cloak and Dagger and Anticipation, it's pretty much like there should be no reason why you should be away from the target. Glyphs. First I'm going to talk about the Glyph of Adrenaline Rush and why I use it. Your Glyph of Adrenaline Rush ability also reduces the global cooldown of your Sinister Strike, Revealing Strike, Eviscerate, Rupture, and Slice and Dice abilities by 0.2 seconds. This is good just because during your burst, you can get out more Eviscerates and more Sinister Strikes, which is just more DPS when it comes down to it. Next glyph, Cloak of Shadows. I use Cloak of Shadows glyph purely because of the fact that on some fights where I don't need it to remove a dot or basically act as a dispel, I use it just for the reduced damage. It can be very handy on 6th phase or Magira, Tortoise if you can't get away from double swipe. Generally doesn't happen much anymore, but it's just very handy overall, especially if you stack it on area damage. With Feint, it can be very handy. 40% and 50%, that's 90% less damage taken, so it can be very handy. Glyph of Smoke Bomb. This is very handy, is a party reduced damage. As you can already see, it allows allies to take 20% less damage as it is. So it's a very handy addition to have that for 2 seconds longer. Yeah, it's very handy. Next up, we have rotation. Just to clarify this, to start off with, a lot of rogue guards, a lot of combat rogue guards, sorry, mention the use of rupture. Don't use rupture. I don't even know I have it on my bar, to be perfectly honest. It's pretty much redundant for the fact that it does such a small dot. I think the most I've ever got out of it off a full rupture was about 210k. I don't really find it too effective at all. So basic combat rotation, I start off with an ambush, then I go into killing spree, then I'll go revealing strike, sinister strike, got 5 combo points, slice and dice, pop shadow blades, adrenaline rush. Basically, as long as revealing strikes up, I'm more than able to spam the living crap out of sinister strike and get off as many eviscerates as possible. As you can see, the reason why I used killing spree straight away is because it's almost already up, and that's meant to be a 2-minute cooldown. Going back to the rotations, I mentioned the fact that, whoops, hang on a second. Yeah, going back to when I was talking about your rotation, how killing spree would be up straight away, or near about straight away, 30-40 seconds left after you do your initial burst if you use it first. That's because of Restless Blades. Your damaging finishing moves reduce the remaining cooldown of your Adrenaline Rush, Killing Spree, Redirect, Shadow Blades and Sprint abilities by 2 seconds per combo point. This is one of the most... well, this is the only real thing that can allow combat to keep up with Assassination during burst, really. It's the only thing that makes combat really viable, because it gives you a secondary burst, and it basically allows you to burst more than any other class in the game, purely because of the fact that your cooldowns will be up quicker than anyone else, so you can, like, over the base of a fight, you can get off probably double the amount of burst. Thanks for watching, guys. This is my first guide. I'll get a bit better at them, get my side over to you guys a bit better in some future videos. For now, over and out. If you have any questions, just ask in the comment section below, or just PM me on game. It's Raging Frostmourne. I'll put my battle tag in the description below.